The mercenary! Ha!
The Pyro update. The name that this update was known by before it was announced as the Jungle Inferno update. Oh boy, how many memes that were made as we were waiting for it. But now that the update is out, the Pyro changes are here, as well as the new promised Pyro weapons. To start with, I'll go over the new weapons. Then to finish off, I'll go over the changes to the flamethrower. And no, I'm not going to cover the second banana for heavy. It is much more basic stats than all of the Pyro weapons, and because this video is about Pyro, not heavy. Another thing I want to mention before I start talking about the new Pyro weapons is that I like the fact that all of them have some kind of unique mechanic to them, outside of just simple stats, which actually shows the amount of effort that the TF team put into this update, which I commend them for. Anyway, let's get started with... The Dragon's Fury is a Pyro primary that completely flips WM1 on its head. This weapon is a burst fire weapon that rewards players for hitting consecutive shots with increased firing speed and bonus damage. This weapon does take some getting used to, and the primary fire of this weapon does take more skill than the other flamethrowers, since the shot goes straight forward instead of being a bunch of particles that spread out like all the other flamethrowers. Now, some people are saying that this weapon is overpowered. However, this weapon does have a major weakness. Any Pyro that knows how to right click. Since this weapon is a projectile based weapon, it can be air blasted, which can be a big disadvantage when coming up against a skilled Pyro. However, since firing rate does increase with consecutive hits, getting a single hit on a right click happy Pyro can throw off their timing for the following shots. This is a pretty unique weapon, and I like the whole burst fire mechanic of it and rewarding players for consecutive hits. This weapon, while being subject to Hitler jokes, is okay? It'll probably be going through a whole bunch of changes and adjustments. The idea behind this weapon is essentially temporary area denial. You throw it, and it leaves a bunch of lingering gas in the spot you threw it. That coats enemy players if they touch it. If a player covered in gas gets hit by any damage before it wears off, they will get Afterburn, even enemy Pyros. This does also include self-damage, as I have had an awkward moment where I got covered in gas, tried to escape with a rocket jump, only to realize that I've set myself on fire like a complete dumbass. Since the gas does linger, it is useful for throwing down a choke and keeping other players away for a short moment, though I feel like it doesn't linger for long enough. Maybe just a few seconds more. While setting players on fire is something Pyro does normally, this weapon allows anybody to set a player on fire under its effect just by simply shooting at them from whatever distance. Also, when covered in gas, the game doesn't count you as being wet, which is probably an intentional design because we all know what the annoying new meta would become otherwise. Filling it up is also just just defending a control point. Nothing. Oh, Pyro. Well, he does counter me, but like, he's short range and all, so he can't reach me. Wait. No, wait, what is he doing? No. Pyro with a jetpack. Let me repeat that. Pyro with a jetpack. Holy shit. This weapon takes the top spot for being the most creative weapon from this update. When I first saw this thing at the end of the Jungle Inferno SFM short, I was hyped, but I also wondered how it would play out. Now that I have had plenty of time with this weapon, I can confirm that it is fun as hell to use. It is mainly a flanking and mobility tool for Pyro, not really a weapon. Yes, landing on people does 3 times falling damage, but I personally think you really shouldn't be going for that. When you click with the thermal thruster, it launches you straight up into the air for about a second, then sends you flying forward in the direction that you're looking. Basically an upwards thrust, then a second thrust in the desired direction. It can contain 2 charges that regenerate over time, so you could use one charge to fly in and flank, then use the second to escape. Its major weakness, however, is the switch speed, both to and from. I'm not sure if this may need adjustment because even now it still feels really awkward. If you plan on immediately using the flamethrower after you land, switch off the thermal thruster immediately after you launch, as it takes just more than a second to put away. This thing gives Pyro a lot more mobility and helps Pyros get to places that are otherwise difficult for Pyros to reach. Okay, so this weapon was likely designed with the intention of hitting someone, then using the speed boost to escape. But honestly, who really uses it for that? The only reason people even use this melee weapon is because you can bitch slap people. You can slap a spy's ass, you can slap your NG building on last, you can slap while being small, and you can even slap that stupid wall. Hell, while I was getting background footage for this video, there was a Pyro on the other team desperately trying to do his hot hand contract, just flying into my team and attacking us with nothing other than his bitch slap hand.
Got it!
I'm ready, guys.
Let's do this.
Now, while this weapon does have two shown stats of 20% damage penalty and speed boost on hit, one of those stats is a lie, and there are also more hidden stats. This weapon actually fires twice in one click, one front hand slap and one backhand. It does both these slaps in the same amount of time that any other melee would take to swing once, and the damage combined from both of these slaps adds up to 20% less damage than a single melee hit. So technically it actually has a 60% damage penalty, but fires twice in one click. However, the problem with this is that I don't think this weapon was designed with random crits in mind. Since the random crit rate on melee weapons is already ridiculous, and the hot hand swings twice in one click, you roll the dice for random crits twice in one click, resulting in more bullshit kills. So does this mean that the TF team is considering the removal of random crits? I hope so. Jill has already stated in game that he dislikes random crits, and random damage spread did get removed from the game at one point. So hopefully we might see the removal of random crits in the future. Oh, no!
Come.
Now the flamethrower. This thing has had major issues throughout all of its time in the game, and finally, after 10 years, they have all been fixed. First of all, the flame effect. Now prior to Jungle Inferno, the flames would work by showing a visual effect coming out of the flamethrower when it was being fired. However, this effect was not actually a good representation of what was actually going on. What is actually happening is that invisible particles are coming out of the pyro's face. This is the actual fire. This is what needs to collide with an enemy in order to register a hit. The flame effect would not get affected by the particles, so sometimes the particles would go in a completely different direction to what it looked like they were, resulting in moments where you get hit when it looks like you shouldn't have, and vice versa. However, the Jungle Inferno update has completely scrapped the old visual effect, and made it that the real particles that come out of the flamethrower are now the visual effect. This means that what you see is what you get, which is great for both Pyro and when fighting a Pyro. Now newer, less experienced Pyros have a better idea of how the flames work and how they move, and now all Pyros can see why they didn't or did hit an enemy player. For people fighting a Pyro, they are now able to see the particles that they need to avoid. When they get hit, they know why. It also helps spies avoid spy checking Pyros. The particles don't actually do anything differently, they are just now also the visual effect. There has however been another issue of people with higher ping having their flame particles go further due to lag compensation, and it doesn't seem to have been fixed. However, the effects can still be seen, so this does indirectly negate the effect. The Afterburn nerf was interesting. The idea that the TF team had was to prevent puff and run attacks, which I guess is okay, but this does indirectly nerf Pyro's ability to counter spy. Pyro is able to easily chase an invisible spy using the Afterburn effect that comes off him. However, since a quick puff or a spy check is usually what catches them out, they generally don't stay on fire for very long. Couple that with the fact that spy is naturally faster than Pyro, and cloaking reduces debuff times, this is a slight bit of a questionable oversight. But hey, I'm a spy main, why should this concern me, am I right? Then finally the air blast changes. Now air blast factors in the momentum of the pyro and the person getting air blasted, which does make air blast feel more like a push rather than a directional movement lock. Though the better change is the fact that players who are getting air blasted are still able to air strafe to some extent, so people who know how to air strafe are able to get out of the clutches of a right-click happy pyro. Beforehand, air blast was more of a stun mechanic, but now it can be escaped with some skill, as players who are victim to it now have more control over the situation. This has, however, killed Puff and Sting as we know it. I think. Well, I sucked at it in the first place, and everyone on casual is just WM1ing furiously trying to get their contracts done. Anyway, that wraps this video up. This was a long one, and then with the heavy update next, oh boy, I wonder what the TF team will think of then. Thank you all so much for watching and sticking around to the end. The changes to Pyro have fixed a lot of the issues that me and a lot of others had with the class, and the new weapons are fresh and creative. Join my Discord server and Steam group while you're still here, links in the description, and maybe you could also consider subscribing. The next Jungle Inferno video I will likely make will be about the contracts, but I still need to have a good go with them before I can make a video. But anyway, thanks guys, and bye.